6 o'clock, call the March 7th Personnel Committee of the Rochester School Board order. First order of business will be stand if you can, pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the February 1st, 2024 Personnel Committee minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Harrington and seconded by Mr. Bollier. Any discussions? Additions, amendments need to be made? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 2, acceptance of the retirement of Kimberly Perkins.
So moved with regret.
Second.
So moved with regret by Mrs. Harrington, seconded by Mr. Bollier. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 3, resignations. We have Kelsey Harmon, Jennifer Morris, and Alaya Gagnon.
So moved.
So
Second.
moved by Mrs. Harrington, seconded by Mr. Bollier. Any discussion? Kyle, has the HR position been posted
It will be after our meeting Thursday.
Thursday?
Just a clarifying question, what school was the guidance counselor working at?
Gagnon was ERS.
ERS.
Kelsey was in Bond.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 4, nomination. Allison Files, paraeducator. Jennifer Gallant, paraeducator. And Rachel Grover, paraeducator.
Still moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Down, seconded by Mr. Bollier. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. I will not read all the names of the co-curricular spring nominations for coaching, but I will recuse myself because my son's name is on that list.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Down, seconded by Mrs. Harrington. Any discussions? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. And Sherry, could you just please note that I recuse myself? Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Item 6. It was asked to be put on to have a discussion pertaining to exit interviews. And the committee members have a copy of the letter, or an example, and I'll kind of turn it over to Kyle to, again, explain the process, and we'll go with it from there with questions.
So what's used tonight is an example. So you have nominations and resignations as items 3 and 4 on the agenda. These names have been forwarded to the school board, which will meet next Thursday. And if the board is so inclined and approves both the resignations and nominations, the exit letter that you have before you goes out the Friday to those folks that have resigned. People are issued contracts as nominated staff, and that's the process we follow.
Okay, so just the only communication is via a letter, and anyone after the board approval, full board approval that Friday, anyone under the resignations, retirements, resignations, receive a letter, not a phone call, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Downs?
So
The issue I have with this is most places that you work at, your exit interviews before you leave. It's like a week, it's like your last week. So, I don't know, and I know we have one board member that never even received a letter when she resigned from the district. So I don't think they're all getting these, so I think we need to think about a different process. And the other thing, nothing against meeting with the superintendent, but you always met with HR when you have an exit interview from a job, not with your boss. So I think that's another thing we need to discuss as well.
So, just for point of clarification, we don't have a policy on, and I guess this is what needs to happen. So procedurally, it's been, historically, the procedure has been this method of exit interviews. What would be the process for changing it? I mean, we don't have a policy. Do we want to have a policy, or, I don't know that.
Well, I could use, it'd be tough, again, and I don't want to speak ill about anyone, but I can tell you at least one of the people on one of this list, the principal received an email the evening before the person's last day of work. So I know what my calendar looks like. I can only imagine what that principal's calendar was like. I don't know if she was able to facilitate any conversation, and really, that's the person's boss, right? I'm not their boss. I'm essentially the head of HR. That's my role. So that currently probably could have happened, but again, due to time constraints, I think it's difficult.
Mr. Cusmano?
Is there any chance that we can make all efforts outside of that situation to go ahead and do an exit interview with whoever the HR director will be or acting HR director, if we have time, but schedule it for them or give them options on that last week? Is that possible? I understand we're gonna have some situations we're not gonna be able to.
I mean, I'm available to meet anytime, so I guess it's just a matter of, we would have to procedurally set something up when we get the resignation letter to try to facilitate that through the executive staff upstairs. If that's the feeling of the board, we can do our best to try to facilitate that.
Mrs. Herring?
I like them having the option to meet in person. Maybe we consider including like a Google form for some kind of just brief questionnaire and an open-ended part where they can elaborate more as an alternative option.
So I guess when a person resigns or retires, there's a process to close out, if you will. They don't just not show up to work the next day. There's a preparation of emptying their locker or whatever it may be. Would the appropriate person to extend an exit interview be the direct supervisor? I mean, or is that getting out too far?
I guess the thing is, it's really what is the board's feeling, because again, when this first topic came up, there are probably an infinite number of models that exist to facilitate this process worldwide. So no one is right, it's what you want to do.
Mr. Bullock?
So, this, Mr. Repucci just hit on the head, there's so many different ways you can do this. Just from experience, it's usually your HR department, either whoever that is, the district, that has to be, you usually have someone from the HR department. That way, it's not, if they would need to disclose anything about the direct supervisor, they have that ability, it's centrally data collected, and it's either, and the same form that you can offer them to fill out themselves is what you actually fill out in the interview, if someone chooses. So I would actually be more inclined to say it's time for us to change this up, give them, hey, once that's the process, as it is now, the letter goes out, giving them, or email if they're still in the district, with the link for them to go online, fill out the form themselves by X date, so the expiration date, or they can contact and meet with, if it's Kyle or whoever is the head of, or the department head. And that's it. And then that data can be collected and reported in personnel, for example, as we've always talked about in the past, so that way you're looking at the trends. Are they leaving to other districts or whatever it is, so you can prepare for either future negotiations or benefits.
So I know in my current job, you meet with HR. Before you leave, before you're out of the building, turn on all your stuff, you meet with HR. You don't meet, obviously you're gonna have conversations with members inside that building, but you meet with HR. And obviously I understand Kyle says he's in charge of HR, but yeah, there's somebody else in charge of HR as well, the city manager. But they meet with HR. That's who our employees that are resigning or retiring or whatever, they need to meet with head of HR. And I agree with you saying, but I still think we should meet with them before they're out of the district.
Mrs. Perry?
Going back to the, like, an online form, I wonder if Frontline has something maybe already built into that system? If do they do sub-requests through that and stuff?
We use that, it has lots of different modules, I'm not aware of an exit interview
Yeah.
module.
If it does, then that would be an easy thing where it houses it all in one place.
Mr. Guzman?
I got two things. First, in that situation, how long do they keep their email account? Is it like 30 days, 45 days? It doesn't have to be exact. They don't lose it that day, right?
No, it's usually turned off unless they ask for permission fairly quickly.
So if we had that situation, would it be a big deal if they kept their email for 15 days? So we could give them time to actually do one online, like the Google form, if they can't get in. Or if they can't get in with you or anybody due to whatever reasons. Is that unreasonable?
No, we would just have to work with CIC to
Yeah,
align
do
the
like a
processes.
15-day window or,
I mean, again, if you set up a procedure, again, not the first example that I gave you, but again, most people give us a little bit of notice. We could issue that almost effective immediately when we receive it. And then if you want to leave it open 5, 10, 15 days after their last workday, you can do that as well.
yeah, I was just asking. And then the other, I was gonna go with Shane, at my company, it's the same thing. You meet with somebody at HR. Whether it's HR up here or HR at headquarters. It's always HR, it's never your boss, it's never the plant manager. It's HR, it's an open discussion, and they can say whatever they want, they gather all the data. Or we do have the option, which you can use a Google form if you can't get into HR. But like basically, HR just opens their schedule for that day and works to fit you into their schedule. So I don't think it's unrealistic if we asked HR, if somebody is leaving, to say, hey, try to work with them the best within yours, but you might miss something to get that information. It's good data, it's good information that we might need.
Mr. McCallum?
So while I guess a couple of things. I like what Mr. Bolio said about having, a Google form survey with the option to meet, I would say with HR, I do agree with that aspect. Because it's easier to talk to an unbiased party than some, like your boss or your boss's boss, whatnot. I think in terms of leaving an email account open for such and such, I think that's gonna be really difficult for CIC. I think that's getting a little too complex with that. But yeah, they normally give at least 2 weeks, if not more than that. So I think if the survey and the option, or if the survey is open until their end date of employment, but if they want to schedule an exit interview for the week after because that's what works best for them, then, they can come in and meet a week after.
Mr. Billiard?
I think at this point, we've all given our opinions on the process that maybe we go back, ask the district to present at the next personnel committee, change the procedure, so that way gathering all this feedback, what could be best practice. I agree, CIC, we should, when they leave the day of the last employment, we cut off their access. But regardless, maybe they can come back with a sample survey and, or worksheet, whatever it is, and we review it and make the final decision.
No, I agree with that. The other thing I want to bring up is resignation letters. So I know the police commission, all the resignation letters get posted in their packet. I think that's something that should be in our packet as well for, like on our personnel people there is, they should be in our packet as well for us to review, and they should be public. I don't know if I want to have a discussion on that.
Mr. Fusman?
I don't disagree, it should be public information where they reside.
Just like that. So if you go on the police commission notes, you'll see at the bottom, the resignation letter, exactly what the officer wrote. That'll be exactly what they wrote. It's attached to their packet.
We get your hand up, Ms. Collier?
Yeah, I would disagree on the resignation letter. Some people, that's an opportunity for them to want to put some information in there that necessarily may not be public. It may be board review, but that's why it goes in their personnel file, which is not a public document or a file. It's their personal record, so I would not be in favor of putting that public.
Well, and I completely understand.
You brought up a
but
discussion.
I believe the board should review their resignation letters. Maybe they should be, when we go in non-public and get them that way. But I think the board should be able to see the resignation letters. If we're approving the resignation, we should be able to see the resignation letters.
Any other thought?
I tend to think of a resignation letter as part of somebody's personnel file, and those are definitely not public, and I think that ought to remain private and remain in their files, not in the public domain. It just seems like we're crossing the line of involving ourselves too much in the day-to-day operations if we're going to go down that way.
And I tend to agree with that in regards to, I look at our role as personnel as filling the positions as far as approving those positions that are approved to be filled. Not so much the names or, again, I've said it before, we have one employee, though we approve these positions being filled, we don't necessarily, and I understand the reasoning for trying to get the feedback on why people are leaving or whatever. I think it starts to skew lines with working beyond our role as a school board. Mr. Bellows?
You kind of mentioned it right at the end, but I think the spirit of a lot of these ideas is to try to figure out why our schools are understaffed and what we can do as a board within our role to support admin in addressing that.
I'm going to make the motion for the resignation letters to be presented to the personnel committee in a non-public.
I will second that motion.
Motion's been made to have resignations letters distributed to the Personnel Committee in non-public session. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Mrs. Herring?
Yeah, I have a question, I guess. Mr. Pusey, do you receive all resignation letters, or is it the principals that receive the resignation letters?
Well, the principal may receive it, but it gets forwarded to central office, so myself and HR receive it. And we process it with payroll, and so there's lots of people that are integral to that document.
Mr. Bellows?
Is there any possibility that if we had access to a resignation letter, we might put ourselves in a situation, Mr. Bowler, you know what I'm talking about, but where we don't have standing anymore if we had to be the body for a hearing of some sort?
That's what
It's a valid question, Mr. Bellows, and I wrote down a note actually that it could be a question that you ask Christina at our school board retreat at the end of the month.
I'll call Gary tomorrow and ask him.
Might I make a motion that we table, or can I amend the motion to table it?
You'd have to ask.
There's a motion on the floor right now, so we have to vote it up or down.
Can we pull it?
You can pull it.
Well, why don't we just pull it, just to, check with legal.
Second, you amenable to that? Okay, so the motion's been removed until we get a legal opinion.
Yeah, just put it on the agenda for next month.
Okay. Any further discussion pertaining to exit interviews? Item 7, public comment. Anyone here from the public would like to speak? No one from the public is here to speak. I will not read the comment. With that, I will close public comment. Item 8, other. Do you have any other?
Yeah, we have a budget. Yes, we do.
Thank you.
So I think what might make sense is if we just take like maybe 2 minutes for Ms. Kelly to pass out a few documents before we get started. Sure.
On both sides.
Yes.
Oh, boy. I get Yes.
Thank you, yes.
The central function
He's like that paper
There's other
check.
things to do, but I don't want to brag.
Pink stuff.
Thank you.
So we're going to review 2 documents, and then you also remember that last week I emailed you a very large set of files. There was the elementary enrollment, the middle school enrollment, and then high school enrollments, okay? So I want to thank our administrators. So we've had 2 management meetings since the last time we knew we were over the tax cap. We've had meetings where actually the last meeting I asked the school principals to actually take the role of you, the school board, and ask each other questions about their sections and their enrollments and different things. So what I'd like to do is show you 2 documents and then open it up for questions and answers and discussion. So you can see in columns A and B, we asked the principals for recommendations. And then after we asked them for recommendations, Ms. Kelly filled in dollar amounts because we're trying to get from $1.1 million over the tax cap to a tax cap compliant budget, okay? So that's that column. Everyone giving something that maybe they didn't want to give, but for the good of the team, right? They offered up positions to get to that, okay? The second set, or in column D and E, is after, probably 3 or 4 meetings with Ms. Kelly, Ms. Camus, Dr. Bryant, myself. We have a similar yet different list than the principals. And I want to explain why it's a little different. You'll see that the dollar amount's a little different, but then we'll get to the second slide where we have more information to share. So the 2 sections at McClellan are related to the low enrollments that I shared. Again, William Allen has a section that, again, is kind of over time, what ends up happening is we see bubbles of large classes at certain schools. So like next year's first grade kindergarten class at William Allen with 3 sections could be 62 kids maybe, I'm just making it up. That bubble would go then following year to first grade. And so if they had 2 first grades, he'd be looking to transfer someone into first grade. So maybe moving a kindergarten teacher or moving a 3rd grade teacher to first grade to fill that, right? And that happens over time. ERS also has 3 sections in 5th grade. and 2 sections in all other. And basically, when you look at the enrollment page, again, as you look at cohorts, right, the 4th grade class, right, is, again, I think it's 41, and it could be accommodated by 2 teachers instead of 3. The 2 special education teachers, Sarah, did you pass out could you please, while I'm talking, pass out, there are caseloads. I asked Sarah to do a caseload analysis of all of our schools, and I can present this as well in a moment. You see that they're highlighted, the 2 special education teachers, right? What we would be doing is transferring 2 teachers who have, the school has a small caseload ratio to a school, and I'm just going to tell you the 2 schools, it would be 2 RMS, one, and 2 SHS, the other, because their caseloads are much larger, okay? And in theory, what we would be doing is taking a person and moving that person to another school and eliminating the case position at the elementary school, saving, again, about $88,000. And in this scenario, no one loses a job, right? So we pick up a person that's a case manager, we move them to another school, right, which we have transfer ability, and no one loses a job. That's why we highlighted this as yellow, so people can see that. We're not advocating for any para cuts because of the legal requirements to facilitate IEPs. At the middle school, again, there are, I think it's 15, and you can see in this sheet that Sarah just passed out, 15 positions, several of them currently open and unfilled, but we'd be transferring 1 elementary to RMS, so they would be up 1 from where they are now, and 2 open positions would be eliminated. Thus, again, no one losing a job. Looking at the high school, looking at the numbers that we saw, we feel we can reduce 1 math teacher, 1 English teacher, and then again, in that same scenario, they'd be added, right, they'd gain 1 special education teacher and remove 2 open positions that they currently have been living without, okay? Thus, again, no one losing a job, all right? So it's a bit of puzzle work, okay? One of the things we also know that we did have a few retirements, okay? So we might be able to massage some of these moves by not losing a person, but not filling that retirement position. And I can say that 2 people have also asked for an extension. We asked for folks to give us their intention to retire by February 1st. There were 2 people who had issues with New Hampshire retirement in some of the online issues that they have. And so they sought an extension. I gave them an extension until April 1st. They were both very thankful. So we would have that ability that, again, a couple of these positions that you see not highlighted could become highlighted positions, and again, thus no one losing a job. So that's the ideal situation, okay? The second sheet that I'm going to share, and I'm going to ask Ms. Kelly to chime in as it comes up here. What we tried to do, and I think what I'd like to do is show you the bottom line first, and then back into it. And Sam, please feel free to elaborate as I get us there. With the cuts, or the transfers and cuts that you've seen presented on that last sheet you have before you, there's an addition of a vacant custodial position. There's a debt service payment that we don't need to make, right?
Yes.
There's some cash cuts to Mr. Toddy's cash CIP, right, of $200,000. And then you see the positions that I just reviewed with you. Some of those being highlighted, others not.
Cal, are you able to expand that a little bit?
I can try to get it up a little bit. We can turn that TV towards you as well if you want. It's just not going to fit on the page. What you'll see with the cuts, we actually get to 1.4 million, and our goal was 1.1. Okay? So you can see that right now with these positions and these recommendations that we have, we're actually exceeding the tax cap by $270,000 and some change, right? There were some additional topics that I'll just broach so that you can see. Another thing that you could do if you wanted is you could eliminate the past practice of elementary free breakfast, which would save $92,000.
Nowhere.
No.
Okay, but it's just, again, I'm not recommending it, I'm just telling you, these are items, okay? We could also remove, right, the 1 ton that Mr. Toddy has in his budget, and he also has a 0 turn. Now, you also have the possibility, okay, that you could remove this from the budget, or, in theory, and again, we're not sure where we're gonna be, you could make a motion tonight in finance to ask Mr. Toddy to bid these out currently. He could get a dollar amount, let's say in 3 weeks, from different bidders. And should we have excess funds this year, you could direct Mr. Toddy through a future finance meeting to use FY24 dollars to purchase items that he had in his fiscal plan for FY25. So thus it wouldn't be a cut overall. So, I know I presented a lot, and there's a lot of probably questions and thoughts. That's why we wanted to give you the physical handout so you can reference things, but then we can also project and share as well. So I guess I'll open up these questions.
Mrs. Mary?
So if I'm looking at this correctly, the 1.4 is with the personnel and the cash CIP projects, correct?
Yes, plus that principal payment.
That we don't need.
Yeah, the city had thought we were going to be bonding some of our projects with their most recent bond issue. That didn't happen. So therefore, we had kind of budgeted for the first principal payment in FY25, and that will be happening now.
Okay. So my question is, if we're at 1.4 and we only needed to cut 1.1, can we have that conversation of what we feel should be put back in and like not cut?
That's kind of what we were hoping to do
That's what
tonight,
I would
yes.
like, to
yes.
get back up
Yep.
to just that tax cap compliant, not more than that, not less than that.
And again, so that's the full budget. I'd like to kind of stick with the personnel side of it and let the building part of it. Go with Ms. Bully first, go ahead. You had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just first of all, thank you to you and the administration. I know this is not easy, it's budget season. This is always a tasking piece. So looking at the personnel items only, just want to reiterate,
Right.
there's no one losing a job. The anticipation is right now with retirements and everything that there can be some repositioning and then we should be okay.
No, that's not exactly.
And that's why I want to
So-
verify.
So the yellow positions, the highlighted yellow positions,
Or me.
okay, those are positions that will not require a reduction in force. But, again, because I'm only telling you this because I don't have additional retirements yet, right, I could. But like the SHS math position, that would be a reduction in force. SHS English, right, McClellan sections, those would be reductions in force. But again, just to be cognizant of, like, one of the things we know is that hiring season starts really, we're in it right now, right? People are posting jobs. So we're probably gonna get a few more resignations. And so if there was a elementary resignation, that person that may be reduced at an elementary school could be transferred to the open position, thus not having anyone lose a job. So that's exactly like the highlighted versus non-highlighted.
So I just want to make sure I understand it as well. So we have multiple open positions in the district. Are we just taking some of those away doing this? We're not getting rid of any staff, or we're just removing some positions? Is that what we're doing?
You just said that currently the math teacher at the high school, the English teacher at the high school, those are filled positions right now. They would be reduction in force. They'd be ripped at the end of this year, unless someone leaves, then that would just not be filled, but right now those are all filled positions. And I don't know.
Are
most special ed teachers certified K-12? Or
Um,
are there specialties like that might be like 5-12 or?
Yes, yeah, special ed is K through 12. We do have some that are like early childhood, that may be like preschool through 3rd grade.
So there's a little flexibility.
There is, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sean?
Looking at the principal recommendations, are the 2 interventionist positions at the middle school currently filled?
No, they're not. One of the reasons that I didn't recommend those to go over, so currently, middle school has reduced staff by 12 positions the last year and a half. And they've unfortunately not been able to fill these 2 positions. One of the fears that we would have in just looking at the reading position is if I'm on an IEP and I have reading requirements and I wouldn't have someone to do it, that would be additional contracted services we need to require. So that's why Ms. Camus and I have not honored Mr. Gilpatrick's request in that way. We've tried to find 2 positions other than those 2 positions at this time.
And I just have a follow-up. Did they originally stem from the COVID stimulus money, like when we made them originally?
No, that's a good question, but we did through ESSER funds, we did have lots of different academic interventionists that we got, like when ESSER 1 ended, we had to phase that position out unless we had it in ESSER 2. But that's a great question. There are currently positions that exist now, I think there's a total of 5 currently in ESSER 3 that expire at the end of the year because ESSER dollars have to be expended by September 30th of 2024. So again, same scenario, someone may receive at the middle of March a letter saying that they don't have a position because the grant doesn't exist, but we hope that you apply for an open position in our district. As you know, we have several, so that they know they can do that.
Okay.
Mr. Beaulieu?
So if I got my math right on the positions of potential workforce reduction, it's approximately $530,000, 530, 538. We are currently more than where we need to be by 270,587. If we take that away, we're only looking at, if we brought that back into the budget, what I mean, and we are only 1 point, we go to the tax cap compliant baseline, there's only just under $260,000 that would affect staffing at this time, which we might be able to find in other areas. So I would like to see us put that month, the $270,000 back into the budget and bring us at baseline, tax cap compliant. We may have a reduction in staff over time after retirements and everything, but I think you can find 260,000 by shuffling staff around versus 530,000. That's what I'm getting at. Is that, you following my logic, Sam?
Yes.
Wow, we've worked before.
All right.
So, to everyone else. So, I think, do I have to make a motion for that, if that makes sense?
Well, a direction.
Yeah, so I would make a motion that we put back in 270,587 back into the personnel items for the budget to not have to reduce as many individuals at this time.
Sorry.
So we're keeping.
Motion made to return $270,587 to the personnel side of the budget. Made by Mr. Beaulieu, seconded by Mr. Downs. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Bellows?
Can I ask a clarifying question? So if I'm looking at this sheet, the yellow on it.
Yes, sir.
What you're proposing would allow the 2 McCollin sections, the 1 William Allen section, the 1 ERS section, the 1 math teacher at the high school, the 1 English teacher at the high school to not eliminate those positions.
That is not correct.
Okay, then that's what I'm glad I'm
The
asking.
$270,000 would approximately give you 3 positions back of the 6 that are not highlighted showing a reduction. So half of that would be able to come back. And potentially, if no one leaves and we have to find room, now we're looking at $260,000 versus $500,000.
Thank you.
So it's only half of those would actually be able to potentially come back. That's up to the district to let us know if that's where the money should go. There's still a lot can happen between now and the end of the year.
Any further questions, discussion?
I just add something.
So we have a motion, seconded on the table, on floor. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? carries. I appreciate the work being put into this and, you know, creative solutions to try and find money, but any other? Anyone have any suggestions to the budget?
Nope.
Okay. Do you have a suggestion for the budget, or?
Under other possible areas to make cuts, can we go ahead and have them put it out for bid now? Have we done it?
Different committee.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Right, yeah, I'd like to stick to personnel.
Okay, sorry.
I don't want to step on anyone else's toes or whatever, I know
Gave me
we're
too
all
much
kind of in the
information.
same
I know.
committees, but,
Gave me a lot of information.
yeah, no, I got you. Ms. McGowan, do you have some?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, Ms. Sarah.
So the motion we just made, that 270, that includes some of the buildings, some of the CIP, cash CIP projects. So that 1.4, that includes making cuts from the
The
building.
motion was for it to go back into personnel.
I know, but that 270 is less it's, never mind.
No,
We're combining building items and
yeah, no,
personnel
it was
items
difficult
to
from the,
make up the 1.4. That's combining both. And if we're wanting to stick to just personnel, that's
I see what you're saying,
saying
yeah.
we're cutting rack truck, cargo body, door hardware, building
Okay,
security,
So that 270 was part of all that?
part of all of this.
Yeah, so the total line of the 1.454 million included vacant custodian position, the first principal payment on the bond, cash CIP projects, correct?
The 1.4 is inclusive of, that's
Oh,
why,
oh,
that's why
yeah,
it's this
okay. Yeah,
overall
yeah,
sheet.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify that so
So-
that if we are mixing two things right now with that number.
You're right.
You could, maybe from personnel, recommend that finance make that motion after the finance committee meeting, so, or at the finance committee meeting. So you're basically, you amend your motion to recommend to finance that motion be made.
thank you, Mr. Pusey. I'll amend that motion that we bring that forward to finance for final determination.
Is there a second?
Second? Second by Mr. Kusumano. Any discussion on that? Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Secretary. All those in favor of amending the motion to have finance do it?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, anything else under other, Kyle? No? Anyone else under other?
Can I speak up, possibly for personnel? Can I go to a non-public because it involves personal,
I'll make a motion to a non-public.
I believe
Under personnel.
it's a personnel.
That's what he's saying, it's personnel, so.
I think it's
I have it. Hang on, please.
Motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A3 colon, 91A3 2C, matters which are discussed in public. Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
You made the
I mean,
You can't do both. Do
Sorry.
we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kusumano.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mr. Kamiri?
Yes. All right. Now that we've come out of non-public, item 8, do we have any others? Mrs. McGowan.
The survey that we worked on, were we presenting that tonight?
We're not prepared to do that. We did all the budget stuff. Do we table to next month?
Yep.
Anything else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion and seconded, Mr. Downs and Mrs. Harrington. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.